you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the fall!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Bittt. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
What a start to the show tonight, huh? The second I start, my headphones detach, and here I am. Okay, we got him now. Marinaro, the Sick Podcast. Man, that's never happened to me before, and I hope it's not going to happen again. On this Halloween, I'm dressed up tonight as the GOAT. My sense of humor, of course. All right, okay, let's cut to the chase. Let's get to it. Speaking of characters and Halloween, the man I like to call O Serpente, Simo the Snake Boisvert. What's going on?
Hi, Tony. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to you, too. Did you see that? So basically, this is what happened, all right? I unhook my home phone before every show. Obviously, I don't want it to ring. And so I just noticed before the show that somebody had connected the phone, so it was still on. So I went to disconnect it. When I went to disconnect it, my headphones disconnected, and then the wire fell on the floor. I had to go get it anyway. That's my story. What's going on with you?
I'm doing fine. Lots of hockey to watch, junior, college, Europe, NHL. It's fun.
Yeah. What's the story here? You're going to bring more energy to the table than what you're bringing right now? Or what's the story? You look like you just got up from a nap. What's the story here with you?
I'm doing fine. I'm just waiting for you to start the show, Tony.
Yeah, okay. Why do I still have a house phone in 2023? Because I do. That's why. Because I do. I don't feel like keeping the cellular on 24 hours a day. I don't feel like keeping it on when I sleep. All right? That's why I do. Anyway, okay. We're going to get to a couple of questions. We're going to get to one question, which I was asked a lot yesterday. This one coming from Eric Lavec, who says, how come there was no podcast yesterday? Okay. I'm going to try to explain this, and hopefully some are going to understand my way of thinking on this. Last night, the Montreal Canadiens had a game in Vegas that started at 10 p.m. Our podcast starts at 10 p.m. Could I have gone on at 10 p.m. and watched the first period with everyone? I could have. Could I have watched the first two periods with everyone? I could have. Could I have watched the first three periods with everyone? I could have. I've done it before. I don't find it translates all that well. If I would have had a TV behind me, and it's a big, big screen, and everyone's watching the game. I have one on my left, one on my right, one behind me, and you could actually watch me while the game was going on. It could work. If you're going to watch the game while I'm watching the game, and I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing, I don't find it works all that well. If I would have done it for one period, and you would have watched, how many people would have watched the podcast after if I wasn't going to talk about the rest of the game and I was only going to talk about that period? Could I have done a podcast earlier? Yes, I could have done a podcast earlier, but then we get away from what we have advertised and what people have come accustomed to is that it's going live at 10 p.m. I could have done it earlier, and then it would have been a sort of pregame for a couple of hours, but then only so many people watch it. And once the game starts, no one's going to watch the podcast anymore. So we went 12 months for the podcast this past year. 12 months. We didn't take any time off. We went 12 months. All right. Most podcasts went 9 months. Some of them went 8 months. We went 12 months. So I think there's a total of 6 games that are going to start either at 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. And so I think we're going to skip those 6 games. And instead, what we might do is I'm going to be on 6 times when I'm not supposed to be on, right? So maybe I might even give you 6 Saturdays. On average, 1 Saturday per month. And for those who are asking me to do a podcast at 1 o'clock in the morning, when the game was over at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm not doing a podcast at 1 o'clock in the morning, all right? Because for somebody to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning to watch a podcast, as much as I appreciate the support, I don't think it's very normal to stay up at 1 o'clock in the morning to watch a podcast. As good as you might think I am, I don't think there's going to be too many people that are going to watch a podcast at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I don't feel like doing a podcast at 1 o'clock in the morning, man. All right, okay. What's going on, Snake?
Okay, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done, yeah.
Okay, what do you want to talk about?
Well, we have a lot to talk about. I want you to talk to me about Juraj Slafkovsky, because he's what a lot of people want to talk about. Juraj Slafkovsky. I know I'm going to have an opinion on this from you. Juraj Slafkovsky.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that, and I said it last year, I think that the guy should have started the year in Laval, perhaps spend the whole year and see what happens for this year. Maybe if he had played in Laval, he would not have been injured. You never know, because it's not the same circumstances. And I don't think 1 or 2 years in Laval would have been that bad. 18-year-old guys go back to junior hockey. They go back to the NCAA. But I think that when it comes to a first overall pick, you give the guy every chance possible to develop in the NHL. New Jersey did it with Jack Hughes. He really struggled the first year. Even the second year wasn't great. And then it took off. So I don't think either way is not, there's no wrong or right. I think either way.
Jack Hughes has a special talent that Slafkovsky does not have.
Slafkovsky is not Hughes, but I'm just talking about number 1 overall picks. Nico Hischier, started in the NHL. I mean, that's more probably better comparable in terms of impact. But I think right now, as we speak, he's a year and a few games into the second season. If they want to send him to Laval, it should be done now, and he should stay there for the rest of the year. If not, you keep him in Montreal. Perhaps you shelter him on a third line. But my concern with Slafkovsky, and it was the same concern a lot of people had before the draft, can he produce like a number 1 overall pick? I'm not saying McDavid or Crosby or Jack Hughes, but like number 1 overall pick, you can at least expect a point a game, I would think. Is the guy a 70-point man, an 80-point man? I think this is a concern right now, because he doesn't make plays. He's not that dangerous. He doesn't produce offense. And aside from the Olympics, where he scored a lot of goals a couple of years ago before the draft, I never found that this guy's impact would be on the score sheet. Okay, he's big, he can skate, he can hit, he can create space, which is good. But he's a number 1 overall pick. We'll see. It's early. He's a big guy. I'm not going to throw the towel,
Okay, I went to the game on Saturday night, right? I want to thank Paul. Paul was a listener back when I was doing radio, and he watches my podcast right now and all that stuff. And he invited me and Grant McCagg to the game. All right, we had great seats, 119 AA. We're right up against the glass. Paul has 3 tickets there, 3 seats there. Absolutely fantastic. So I go to the game, and after the second period, I make my way to the men's room. As I make my way to the men's room, this is not a word of a lie, and it's just what people were talking about. I got stopped probably 8, 9, 10 times. Okay. Hey, everyone wanted to talk a little hockey. No problem at all. It was, fun to stop and talk hockey. But every single person that stopped me talked to me about Slafkovsky and told me that either he's a bust or he has to go to Laval. Now, at one point, I thought Slafkovsky was a sluggish skater. When I saw him at ice level on Saturday, This guy moves a lot faster than I thought. I no longer think his skating is sluggish. He actually eats up the ice. He carves up the ice the way he's skating. But what I found was the plays that he makes, he's making once again because he's able to gain a little space because he's big and he's strong and he has a reach. And what I'm finding is, and I'm finding is a little bit unlucky because he could have had more points with a little bit of luck. But right now, his feet are moving faster than his brain. And his line mates' brains are moving faster than his. And up here, he's a second behind in terms of seeing the play develop in front of him. And this is the big fear when you draft a big player, right, Snake? Is that they get by on their physicality. They get by on their athleticism. And because they got by on that for so long, they never had to exercise this, the hockey brain, the hockey IQ. And so that part of it is behind. Now, they're probably trying to work on that with him here, but I'm concerned about it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm concerned that his hockey sense and his hockey IQ isn't at a level where I would want it to be. And I'm just hoping that one day it will get there, because if it doesn't, well, then he won't end up being the best pick at 1.
Well, chances were in most drafts that the guy picked number 1 doesn't end up being the best player. And I think 2022, it was almost like having the first pick was like a hot potato. I'm sure there are teams during the lottery who probably wish that they had the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th pick that year, because the chances of not getting the best player in 2022 were very, very, very high. Look, we'll only know in 15 years who, or maybe before, who was the best player in 2022. But look, they took a guy they thought would be a good fit. And like I said, it's not over yet.
No, it's not over yet, because if you watch the way Jesperi Kotkaniemi is playing right now for Carolina, a lot of people thought that Kotkaniemi was a bust. A lot of people thought that Kotkaniemi wasn't a good pick. I've gone on for the longest time to say that I would have rather taken Brady Tkachuk, and by the way, I still stand by that. But guess what? Jesperi Kotkaniemi has 10 points in 10 games for Carolina. It's not too shabby, my friend.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if he maintains that pace, but and it's also his 6th season. And when you analyze a draft, I think you have to look at the whole career of a player. So guys like Quinn Hughes and Brady Tkachuk, they gave their respective teams more good years so far than Kotkaniemi did. But we'll see in 10 years, when everything's said and done for all these guys, or almost. We'll see, but I think Kotkaniemi will end up probably still be, when you do a redraft, he'll be a top 10 pick.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah, it was not a great draft either. So even today, if I do a redraft, I think he's still in the top 10.
Craig Button said a couple of weeks ago right here on the Sick Podcast that the Montreal Canadiens better hope that they know what they're doing with Juraj Slafkovsky, because what he would have done is he would have kept Slafkovsky in Europe for at least another year, and then he would have sent them to the World Juniors. He would have kept them in Finland. You're nodding. You're shaking your head here. What's going on with you?
No. Guys have to come to North America to get used to the style of play and the ice surface. I mean,
it all depends. I agree somewhat with that comment. Like, for example, I would have liked, so you would have preferred Reinbacher and Laval than Claughton in Switzerland, correct?
Of course, because Simon Nemetz has been in the AHL for his 2nd season now for New Jersey. Yeah. And same with David Irichak in Columbus, Yuri Kulich for Buffalo. This is what you do. You bring these guys ASAP.
Yes and no. Because it could be that they could be doing better development in Finland than they are doing in Laval, for example.
How? There's no contact. It's a big ice surface, not the same style of play. No, it's garbage. You bring them to North America to play the game that they will be playing in the future, not some kind of a fantasy ballerina hockey in like they do in Europe.
So I think that right now, even though Slafkovsky is here, what I'm hearing from people, like, once again, I said they stopped me and they said that, either this kid's a bust or he's got to go to Laval. There's something very dangerous that's going on right now that I'm sure the Montreal Canadiens would love to stop as soon as possible. And that is that whole talk of, once again, that's restarted up. Okay, bust. He's no good. He looks out of place. The last 2 games, I was worried about him in camp. When season started, I thought he played very, very good to start this season. And now in the last 2 games, I have that worry that I had in camp again. That's where I am right now. But what's dangerous about all this is if all those people who are stopping me are saying bust or you got to go to Laval, if those start to become bigger numbers and we start to hear it more, could you imagine the pressure that's going to be on this kid? Because he's going to start to feel it. You think he doesn't know what people are saying? You think he doesn't hear what people are saying?
Of course he does. And that's why going to Laval could restore his confidence if he starts scoring. The guy needs to score. And that's why when you bring a player up to the NHL, he has to have been a proven point producer, whatever role you give him in the NHL, whatever chair he has in the NHL, he has to be a proven scorer at inferior levels. And that's why Slafkovsky, had he been to Laval and scored, let's say, 20 goals last year, well, we're getting there. And then maybe this year, 25 to 30. And so there's a build-up, and people are looking forward to seeing him, and he develops quietly. Now it's bang, they throw him to the Wolves in the NHL last year. He was not NHL ready. And now he gets injured, and now they give him a chance because he sort of gets the benefit of the doubt because he was injured. Yeah. And you don't want to seem like, well, we didn't send him to Laval this year. We're not going to send him to Laval this year. We didn't send him last year. We're not going to send him this year. The more they wait, the more confusion they're going to start creating. And like you say, if he doesn't produce soon, people are going to start calling him a bust. And although he's young, at some point, people will say, well, it's been 2-3 years that he's in the NHL, doesn't produce.
Habination says, what is JF Fool going to teach him? I don't think that's fair, right? I don't think that's fair at all because take a look at Joshua Roy. He's doing great. So if Joshua Roy is doing great in Laval, would people have said...
He had some very good games, yeah.
Yeah, but would people have said, what is JF Fool going to teach Joshua Roy?
Yeah.
Like, I know what people are thinking. They're thinking that because Marty St. Louis was a star National Hockey League player and JF Fool was an average hockey player, that Marty St. Louis could teach JF Fool, could teach Slafkovsky a lot more than JF Fool could. Not necessarily. It doesn't always work out that way.
No.
Right? Because if it would, then every player that would have been under Wayne Gretzky would have turned out to be an unbelievable player. It's not the case.
Yeah.
Logan Cooley, by the way, has 6 points in 8 games.
Yeah.
Once again, what was your list again?
It was so close. I had Slaf at number 1.
You had Slaf at number 1?
Yeah. Kind of reluctantly, because to me there was like a bundle of players that I would have tried and trade down. I know it's not easy because most teams were probably thinking like me. I really didn't know.
I think I remember you saying that it was so close that you would have traded down and tried to acquire assets. Look, I'm going to tell you, it's still young, it's still early. Yes, it's still
there
early.
Were things I didn't like about him. I like him.
Yeah, I pride myself on having opinions, so I'm going to give you an opinion, right? I think that I'm ready to say already, like, and I know it takes 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, but based on their tools, like, I'm ready to say that I'm going to say it already or right away. Logan Cooley is the more talented hockey player. He's going to be the one who's going to be the better hockey player. Slafkovsky is bigger, he's stronger, but
at least in terms of production, I think I agree with you. I would be very surprised if Slafkovsky ended up having as many points as Cooley down the road.
Yeah, I don't see that happen. Now, if the Montreal Canadiens one day win a Stanley Cup and Juraj Slafkovsky is a valuable member of that team and Slafkovsky could be to the Canadiens what John LeClaire was to the 93 team, then it doesn't matter if Logan Cooley goes on to another team and is drafted by another team and picks up more points than Slafkovsky, as long as Slafkovsky helps the Montreal Canadiens win a Stanley Cup one day.
Yeah.
So right now, Tuesday, October 31st, you're Marty St. Louis. You've seen Slafkovsky so far, 9 games into the season. Are you ready to take a decision?
Yeah.
What's the decision you're taking?
I'll give you an example. Mikko Rantanen. He's 19 years old. He goes to Colorado. He plays, I think, 8 games. He looked totally lost on the ice. I remember watching the games. He looked like, oh my God, this could be a bust. And I really liked Mikko Rantanen at the time. Drafted 10th in 2015. Yeah, he was. He was. Anyway, he arrived in Colorado. He was 19 years old because it's a late birthday. He was terrible in October. They sent him to their AHL affiliate, San Antonio. The guy had a fantastic season. Yeah, he came back to Colorado. He was a little bit better. And the year after, around the age of 21, he started taking off. So, and that's a European player who came to North America, and they were tempted, to make him play. If you recall, at the time, the Avalanche was pretty weak. Around the time that Rantanen arrived, I think 2017, they were pretty weak. But they were probably tempted to keep him, but they didn't burn a year of his contract. After 8 games, they sent him down. This is probably the greatest thing you've ever said on this podcast, and I'm going to tell you why. Because whether we agree or disagree with what you just said or your opinion, or whether you agree or disagree if Slafkovsky should stay up or go down, the fact of the matter is, when Slafkovsky was drafted, he was asked which player he thought he most resembled. And he said, Mikko Rantanen. Now, Slafkovsky played where before being drafted from the Montreal Canadiens? He played in the league in Finland. Where did Rantanen play? In Finland. Yeah. Slafkovsky played for TPS Turku. Where did Rantanen play? For TPS Turku. Slafkovsky is a 6'4" left-handed winger. What's Rantanen? A 6'4" left-handed winger. There's a lot of similarities here. There's a lot of similarities, and you're right. After playing 108 games with TPS Turku, Rantanen did, over 3 seasons. Slafkovsky played 31 games over 1 season. Rantanen, who was drafted 10th, played his first 9 games in the NHL. Slafkovsky was drafted 1, played 39. But after those 9, Rantanen went down, played the final 52 games in the AHL, picked up 60 points. The following season, played 4 games in the AHL, but ended up playing 75 games in the NHL and had a 20-goal season in the National Hockey League. And the year after that, he had an 84-point season in 81 games. The year after that, 87 points in 74 games. The year after that, 41 points in 42 games, 66 points in 52 games, 92 points in 75 games, and 105 points last season in 82 games. Now, we have to say he plays with Nathan MacKinnon, who's a top 5 player in the world. But this is a great example that you brought up tonight, Uzerpent. Yeah, I'm not saying that Slafkovsky has the same offensive potential, but there were similarities when they were 17, 18 years old in Finland. In both cases, there were concerns about how productive they would be. And this is why in a strong draft, 2015, Mikko Rantanen went number 10. Probably in 2022, had the 2015 draft been like the 2022 draft, it's very possible Rantanen would have gone top 3.
Yeah, Ryan says Rantanen is a bust this season. No, he's not. He's got 12 points in 8 games. That's not a bust. That pretty much translates to times 10. That's a 120-point season at the end of the year. Okay, so that's definitely not a bust. That's number one. And number two, I think he's proven over the last 6 or 7 years that this guy's a machine. This guy's excellent. This guy's really good. So you're sending him to the American Hockey League.
Yeah.
But Rantanen played a lot more games in Finland than Slafkovsky did.
That's true. I agree. He was more prepared for all this.
Yes.
For the NHL, was more prepared. Slafkovsky was very, very raw. But, you draft the guy number 1, you're rebuilding. You want to keep the guy in the NHL. And examples will, some people will say Joe Thornton struggled the first year on the fourth line.
Yeah.
But instead of going back to junior hockey, but now you know what? It's not about junior hockey. With European players, you have the chance of being able to send them to the AHL. I understand with a junior player, it's a little bit more complicated because you don't want to send the guy down and then he sort of loses interest but with European players, you can send them in between, the National Hockey League and junior hockey. This is a big, big advantage. And that's what New Jersey did with Simon Nemec.
Yeah.
Why didn't the Canadiens do it with Slafkovsky? Nemec went number 2, and he's still in the American Hockey League, although he had a great season last year in the AHL. But, they prefer to play Luke Hughes, who's a year older, and they're cup contenders, and that's it. They decide to go slowly with their guys, and I think Nemec will be in New Jersey for good next year. So why not do the same with Slafkovsky? But obviously, it's not the same media coverage. It's not the same. It's not the same pressure. It's not easy to be to manage the Montreal Canadiens. I think it's much easier to manage a team like the New Jersey Devils in the market, where basically hockey, the Devils are probably the 11th most important team in the area.
Yeah. Dreams of Silver Season says they have to take a look at the example of Tage Thompson, who also went down in the American Hockey League and played really well, and take a look at the player that he became now. Okay. Another thing, RHP. Marty St. Louis trying to look for that first line right winger. He had Josh Anderson, then he went to RHP, then he went to Josh Anderson. Now he's got RHP again, who I think probably picked up his first point playing with them. I could be wrong, by the way, of the season yesterday on Suzuki's game-tying goal. It was a beautiful pass, by the way. I really didn't expect him to make that pass. I didn't think he was going to be able to thread that needle. It was very nice, but they're still looking for a white right winger to mesh with those guys. So I tell you, let's just say it didn't happen yet this season. And I say, hey, Snake. And you say, yeah. So let's say I'm the coach or the assistant coach or whatever. And I say, RHP's playing with Caulfield and Suzuki. You're going to sit back, just let me tell you that, not say anything, or you're going to say something?
Here's what I'm going to say about Harvey Pinard. I like Harvey Pinard. I think he's an NHL caliber player. I think it can be a useful player on a very good team. However, I think he's more of an up and down the lineup type of guy. There are guys like that, where basically they can play a few games on the first line, they can play on the second line, they can play on the bottom six, they can play on the PK. I don't think RHP is necessarily the type of guy who can be a fixture on the top line of an NHL team, and especially not a contender.
He's a Swiss Army knife.
Pardon me? He's a Swiss
Army knife. Yeah.
Yeah. Up and down the lineup, and he can have a very long career. But no, I mean, I don't see him as a permanent solution to the Caulfield, especially he's not a big guy either. Suzuki and Caulfield are not big guys. So you have 3 smallish or smaller guys, let's call it, on that top line.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, did you see cool? I thought Goalie played one of his best games in the National Hockey League last night. playing against the defending Cup champs. He played over 26 minutes. That rush in overtime when he was on the attack and then he had to make his way back, he looked like Usain Bolt on skates. It was unbelievable. A lot of people have wondered about Guhly's ceiling, and I was never really sold that he could be a number one. I thought he could be a number one pair. A number one, it's a big tag, because I think, most number ones have to be either unbelievable defensively or unbelievable offensively or a fantastic hybrid. I didn't know if he can give us that offensive game or if he had that offensive game. I saw some things last night. I think we might see that offensive game one day.
If you go back to Goalie being the number one overall pick in the WHL draft many years ago.
So
obviously the guy,
draft,
obviously the guy has been under the radar for many, many years.
Yeah.
And even when he was 16 years old, he was seen as a possible top 5 pick in the 2020 draft. I think that's when he was drafted, 2020. He was seen as a possible top 5 pick. And then it started going down because his offensive ceiling was being questioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as he played in junior hockey, Montreal last year, the same questions. Is he a 30, 40-point guy? Or is he a 60-point guy, let's say? Can he run the power play, et cetera, et cetera? My opinion on Goalie is that, like you said, he can be a first-pairing guy as long as he's the guy who stays a little bit in the background and can contribute offensively due to his fantastic skating and the fact that he has some offensive skills, but I don't see him as a number one guy on a cup contending team. Now, it's either that or he leads a second pairing, basically with a stay-at-home guy behind. So maybe as a second pairing guy is how can I
so
put
he
it?
plays he'll play on a first pair, him and Reinbacher.
As long as Reinbacher is better offensively.
And Mailloux will end up playing with
Mailloux will end up on the third pairing, best case scenario.
But you know what? You were doing good up until this point. We're what? How many minutes are we now? We're 30 minutes into the show, 30 minutes into the show, and 30 minutes in, you had to drop a stupidity the way you dropped.
No, it's because
what do you have with this kid? What's your problem? Did you send him a Christmas card one year and he didn't write back? What's his story with you guys?
That's the way I see the player. And like I told you the last time, Tony.
Put on your glasses.
No, the guy was drafted 31st. Okay? To me, if he's a third pairing guy in the NHL, that's fine. He was drafted 31st. You guys talk about him with expectations of a top 5 pick. You guys see a monster on the blue line with his shot, with his physique, with his skating, with everything. You guys see, I don't know. I don't know. He's not.
When all is said and done, where's Quentin Musty going to play? First line or second line?
In San Jose? Considering the state of the team, I think it's pretty good for him. I think he's going to be a first line winger.
But he was drafted 26. With your knowledge, with this stupidity they use, he
was drafted 26, but he should have been drafted top 10, top 15 max.
Yeah, and you know why Logan Mailloux was drafted 31st? Because he told everyone I don't deserve to be drafted.
Because he was very average. Tony,
he was in the top 12 on the Canadiens list. What are you
the guy who made that list was fired. Okay, so
he was there for 20 years.
Yeah. Okay, go on HockeyDB, and aside from 2007, let's have fun. Anyway, that's for another.
We're gonna have fun now.
Yeah. What I'm saying about Mailloux.
Drafted Caden Goalie.
Is that
Hold on a second. Did Trevor Timmons not draft Caden Goalie?
So what?
No. You just told me that besides 2007, he didn't make any good picks. Did he draft Caden Goalie?
I didn't see he didn't make any good picks. I just said, look at the body of work of this guy. There's a reason why at some point Jeff Molson woke up and fired the guy. Anyway, that's for another. That's another topic.
That's another topic.
What I'm saying about Mailloux is that
I don't understand this guy.
how many games? It was during the COVID season. How many games did you see that guy play in Europe when he was in Europe? The guy was very, very, very average. Okay, it has nothing to do with the incident. It has nothing to do with whatever. He was very average. Go watch tape of Logan Mailloux, not just stupid YouTube highlights, but go watch tapes of Logan Mailloux during the COVID season, 2020, 2021 in Europe.
Yeah.
And tell me that he is a monster, a future top pairing guy, whatever you want to call it.
Because you didn't like him in 2020, 2021, you're prepared to say in late October of 2023 that he's never going to be better than a third pair defenseman. I don't understand some of the things that come out of your mouth sometimes.
Because first of all, when he came back to the AHL, I do not care about his 18 and 19-year-old season. Repeat after me. I do not care about his 18 and 19-year-old season. Now, what I see in Laval, this year, I still see a future third pairing guy. What can I tell you? This is
Did you ever pick up the phone and call the Hunter brothers and ask them what they think of Logan Mailloux?
Okay, again.
You
guys interviewed.
I asked you a question. Give me an answer. I didn't interview nobody. Did you ever pick up the phone, call Dale Hunter or his brother Mark, or go to London, watch a game for yourself? Did you go see him at the Memorial Cup?
Who cares?
Just answer the question.
It was his 19-year-old.
Did you order the code red?
What?
Did you order the code red? I guess you never watched A Few Good Men, and you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking
about. I watched it, but that's
to get an answer out of
years ago.
Did you go watch the Memorial Cup? Yes or no?
I only watched it on TV.
You only watched it on TV. So you only watched that on TV, but you base yourself on what you saw in 2021 when he was playing in Sweden during a lockdown year or COVID or whatever.
Tony, I care about what I see in Laval this year. I care about what I see in Laval this year. You guys are obsessed with these 19-year-old kids at the Memorial Cup. Michael McCarron was a monster at the Memorial Cup when he was 19 years old. Who cares?
Yeah, and Mitch Marner was a monster in junior hockey, and he ended up being a monster in the National Hockey League. What's your point? But Mitch Marner was a monster in junior hockey, and he was a monster in the National Hockey League.
He was a monster at age 16.
Okay, and so
and 17. Okay. And then 18 years old, he went back to the NHL, the OHL. Then he came, and then he started at age 19, I think, in Toronto. Okay, that's it.
So let me ask you this. How much of a monster was Tage Thompson at 20 years old? Like you can give me examples of things, and I can give you examples of other things. Is that the game that we're going to play over here? But I don't understand.
Tony, you always have to, when you watch a player.
So Caden Primo was fantastic at Northeastern, right?
What?
Caden Primo was fantastic at Northeastern?
No, he was part of a system where and a division where basically there's no goals scored.
Oh, he was part of a system.
Yeah.
He was part of a system. Oh,
and no goals were scored.
No goals were scored. So
the guy sucked in the USHL.
So Marty Brodeur wasn't good then.
Marty Brodeur was great in junior hockey.
Okay, no, but Marty Brodeur in New Jersey was part of a system.
Yeah. So probably that on another team, he would probably not be the most decorated goalie of all time.
Okay, so Caden Primo probably on another team other than Northeastern probably wouldn't have been the most decorated college goalie of all time. Like you can give me examples one way, I can give you examples the other way.
Okay, let's stop with the examples and let's go with the facts. Caden Primo is not an NHL goalie. And you know what?
And now we're going to Caden Primo.
Yeah.
Did you finish with Mailloux yet?
Well, I'm finished with Mailloux. He's a third pairing guy. Stop being obsessed with his performance at the Memorial Cup. Nobody cares.
You know, I'm starting to think that the reason why I have you on the podcast every 4 weeks is after you get off, it takes me 4 weeks to recover from some of the stupidities I hear coming out of your mouth. But c'est pas possible. Like, we were having a good conversation. I actually thought you were making some sense on Slafkovsky, some of the things on Raphael Harvey-Pinard, on Caden Guhly. I started to think you were making some sense. And then 33 or 34 minutes into the show, we end up on Logan Mailloux. I don't even know why you brought him up. You just brought him up, I think, just to rile me up.
No, you did.
My uncle Albert says that out of all the Canadiens defensemen, Mailloux's going to end up being the best one in the end. That's Albert. That's Uncle Albert, who doesn't watch too many games, but he's always there to give you his opinions. He watches 3 hockey games a year and 3 soccer games a year. As a matter of fact, he called me a couple of years ago. He goes, watch this soccer player, Mopape, which is Kylian Mbappe. But anyway, he wasn't wrong with him, even though he got his name wrong.
Okay,
All right,
Primo.
Primo. Let's go to Primo now.
Okay. Why don't the Canadiens put him on waivers? And if, and that's a big if, teams decide to pick him up, who cares? And if he's not getting picked up, he goes back to Laval. He's a Laval goalie. You let his contract expire, and then you let him go play wherever, you know? What is this fixation on this guy thinking that he's going to be the number one, the Canadiens' number one goalie one day?
They got a call from a team that wanted to acquire him. So at that point, they didn't put him on waivers because they didn't want to lose him because they knew for certain that team was going to pick him up.
Who cares if they lose him on waivers? And if that team really wants him, they're going to give at least a 7th-round pick for him.
How do you know what he's going to become? Look, chances are you're right, but why should they lose an asset for nothing when that asset can become something?
Okay, then if they get an offer, Tony, then just trade him. Why don't they just trade him?
What if he ends up becoming better than Montembeault and Allen? Is that impossible?
Yeah.
It's impossible?
Yeah.
It's impossible that he becomes better than Montembeault and Allen. You know, I know that Montembeault's played good hockey the last couple of games, and I know that Allen's played good hockey since the beginning of the season, but they're not the reincarnation of Vladislav Tretiak. You know that, eh?
In your Stanley Cup dreams, okay?
Yes, yeah.
None of the 3 goalies you mentioned are going to be the number 1 goalie from the Montreal Canadiens.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's a pretty fair comment.
So Primo, move on. That ship has sailed. He's not Carey Price's successor. So let's move on. You trade him, you get whatever you can get. He was a 7th-round pick, so you can get, I don't know, a 6th or 7th-round pick. Anyway, AHL goalies have no value. And AHL goalies, they are worth nothing. And this is not me saying it. This is something that someone said on BPM Sport.
Yeah, who said that?
And they talked to a general manager, unnamed general manager. And that general manager told that journalist, AHL goalies are worth nothing on the trade market.
So you might as well keep him.
Why?
Why not?
Why that fixation on this guy? Why are you guys still hoping that this guy can be a number 1 or number 2, reliable number 2 guy in the NHL?
Because it takes goalies longer to come into their own than any other player in any position.
There is no progress.
You like Montembeault?
Not really.
Not really. Oh, okay. Not really. Okay.
No. Okay, so let's move on from these guys. You build a team.
Because Montembeault came into his own now at 26 years old. Who's to say that Caden Primo can't be that
coming
guy?
To his own? I mean, what do you call coming to his own?
He's fine.
He's fine.
Okay. They're sharing the load the way the
Canadiens are not cup contenders. The Canadiens should build a contending team now.
So their record of 5-2-2. What do you think? It's a mirage or what? Are you a believer yet, or you're not a believer?
Look, I think the problem with the Habs, okay, and I know you've talked about the rebuild a lot in the last couple of years, and I agreed with you. They should have gone the way of the rebuild, and they got a number 1 pick, they got a number 5 pick. I agree with the strategy. The only thing is, I realize now that Kent Hughes, he makes some pretty good trades. And I think the problem with his pretty good trades like Monahan,
Yeah.
Newhook, Tanner Pearson, Kirby Dach,
Monahan and Dach were great trades. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the problem is that these guys were seen as, throw-ins in trades. Really. Monahan was always injured. Calgary got rid of him. It was a salary dump. But the thing is, the problem that is creating is that the Habs maybe are a little bit too strong to get a top 5 pick, but they're not strong enough to make the playoffs. And the danger is that at some point,
you're going to
they
be
won't have enough impact players to become a contending team and will just be a good team and not a great team. This is the danger.
So I like that. I share that danger, by the way. But you know what they would tell you? Well, we have a lot of first-round picks. We have Slafkovsky, who was a number 1 pick overall.
Yeah.
They'll tell you we have Nick Suzuki, who's a 13 pick overall. Yeah. We have Cole Caulfield, who's a 15 pick overall. We got Newhook, who's a 16 pick overall or something like that. We got Caden Guhly, who's a 16 pick. We got Mike Matheson, who's a 24 pick. We got Kirby Dach, who's a 3 pick. We got David Reinbacher, who's a 5 pick. This is the way they'll justify it, that they have plenty of picks.
Yeah, they do. But what I'm saying is that if you really want to have access to the stars, let's say, or a better chance of having access to a star, is that you do like Chicago and basically you fill the lineup with garbage.
You know what I really like about picking up Monahan and picking up Newhook? Is that when Dach went down, they were there as insurance policies.
Yes, I agree.
And that's why I'm not going to trade
Primo.
And that's why I'm not going to trade Primo, because if Allen goes down or Montembeault goes down, who's going in next?
Tony,
who's going in you?
Where's your idea of the rebuild now? You're happy that they're 5-2-2?
No, to tell you the truth, I wish they would be 0-9.
Yeah, and battle with the Sharks for Macklin, Celebrini, or Cole Yzerman. Yeah.
That's exactly, yes. Give me Celebrini or Yzerman, and là, on commence à parler. Now we can start talking. Because Yzerman is going to end up being another 40-goal scorer after
because Kent Hughes makes good under-the-radar trades.
Yeah.
They're not 0-9. That's the thing, and that's the concern, because I went to see the Habs game against the Blackhawks opening night.
Wow.
And it's not.
You went to see Connor Bedard.
Yeah, of course. Do you think I went to see the Habs?
But are you trolling us now or what? What's the story with
trolling.
you?
I just don't care.
Are you upset that they never hired you? Because if you want, I can place a call tomorrow.
Oh,
I don't know.
Go work for them in a jiffy. I'm just saying that I don't care about the Habs, like I don't care about the 31 other teams. I care about hockey.
Okay, good. Okay?
I don't watch this as a fan. I watch this as an observer of players.
So besides going to watch Connor Bedard, for you, there was no other Montreal Canadian that was worth the price of admission.
I was interested.
You were interested.
I watched the 30. I watched the 36 players on the ice.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the main attraction was Bedard, obviously. But
so
I watched the game, and I thought that the Habs, although they were playing Chicago and everything.
So you didn't watch the goalies then?
What?
You didn't watch the goalies? No, you said you watched 36 players, 18 and 18, but the goalies 19 and 19. You watched 38. Okay, now come on.
Whatever.
Yeah.
18 plus 1. What I'm saying is that I thought the Habs are not that bad. And to me, for someone who wishes for high draft picks,
it's not good.
It's not good, but it's only October. Let's see what happens at some point.
So you'd end up trading Sean Monahan then. You would trade Sean Monahan.
Of course. Of course. Monahan would be traded unless you go on a year-by-year basis with this guy, and you're take him as for veteran leadership, whatever you want to call it. You don't pay him such a high salary because he's injury prone. But again, what are you looking for? Are you looking for 2-3 more years of high draft picks, or do you want the team to start taking off? The problem is that if the team starts taking off with what they have, whether it be prospects or established players, the Canadiens will become a good team, but not a great team. And this is the danger right now. And that's why I was pro Mishkov. Because with a guy like Mishkov, you get a second very dangerous scorer. You have 2 40, 50 goal scorers on that team.
I think that's the only thing you've ever said that I've ever agreed with, because I was on the Michkov bandwagon too. By the way,
and I like Reinbacher.
You brought up Kirby Doc, by the way. If we can, he actually tweeted. He was in bed when he tweeted this. Let's see if we have it. We can bring it up. There you go. Surgery done. Thanks everyone for all the support over the last 2 weeks. Road to recovery starts now. There you have him. God love him. And the tweet from the Montreal Canadiens. Forward Kirby Doc underwent successful knee surgery and expected to make a full recovery before the start of next season. By the way, for those of you who tweeted out today that Doc is going to join the Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs, should they make the playoffs, don't be stupid. Like, please, just don't be stupid. An injury like that, he's not coming back when the players are going to be at their highest level of fitness, the highest level of speed, and the highest level of intensity. All right? That's not when he's coming back.
No.
He's going to train in the off season, and then he'll be back at camp. That's when he's coming back. All right? Because anything less than 8 months would be idiotic. So that's all of November, all of December, all of January, all of February, all of March, all of April, all of May, and then all of June. And that's the end of the Stanley Cup Finals. And if he's ready for the Stanley Cup, let's just say they make it to the Stanley Cup Final, and they probably, it's going to be 7.5 months in. He's not coming back. You're not coming back when the players are here and you're here. You're not doing that.
No.
Anyway.
No. So look, to me, it's for Monahan. It's a matter of what do they want to do with this team? Because with Chicago, it's very clear what they're doing. They are trying to put the absolute worst team. They tried last year to put the absolute worst team ever on the ice. They didn't even finish 32nd. That's the funny thing. This year, they brought in some veterans. You can tell that it's just to surround Connor Bedard with veterans. And these guys are not impact players. I mean, they gave $4 million to Foligno and Perry. I mean, they're fine, but they're fine as fourth-line players. The thing with Kent Hughes is that he got some pretty interesting players from these trades. The guys we just mentioned, Monahan and Newhook, and I think Newhook can be part of a future contending team.
Yeah,
but you're missing. The Habs are missing the big pieces.
But I understand. But hold on a second. For the most part, teams that have won the cup in the last 20 years, Pittsburgh, Crosby, Malkin, Jordan Stahl, Marc-Andre Fleury, Christopher Letang. Tampa Bay, Stamkos, Hedman, Kucherov, Palat, Braden Point. Over the years, some players are still there, by the way. Some players are not. Okay, I realize that. Chicago, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, they had Charmelson. The list goes on and on. Washington, Nicholas Backstrom, John Carlson, Alexander Ovechkin, to name a few. Colorado, Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar, Bowen Byron. The list goes on and on. I've named you teams: the Boston Bruins, Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, Milan Lucic, David Pastrnak. I've named you players that have been drafted by their respective organizations, and they added to that. But the draft went a long way with these teams. But guess what? All of that changed last year when Vegas won the Cup. How did Vegas build their team? They entered the league 6 years later. They ended up winning a Stanley Cup by picking up rejects from all the other teams.
Yeah. Look, Vegas is a very special case because in the era of the salary cap, they started out with a clean slate, and they really took some teams to the cleaners. I mean, come on, Florida wanted.
Yes, but how many number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 picks did Vegas pick up in the draft?
I agree. But it's a totally different story because they started with a clean slate, and they really took teams to the cleaners. Seattle was not able to do it. So that's what it is. I mean, I don't think Vegas can count as any kind of template or example on how to build a team. They went the free agent route. They look, it's all over the map, and they've been a pretty good team except for one season. They've been a very good team for 6 years. I think they went to two Final Fours, and a Cup final, and they won the Cup. But let's not take Vegas as an example for that reason.
Why doing a rebuild is not doing a clean slate? It's the same thing.
No, because you don't have access to the players that Vegas had access to. You call them rejects, but come on, teams were only allowed to protect what 10 forwards and
3D, 7 forwards, and a goalie.
Yeah, and they took something to the cleaners. Look, Florida wanted to protect Petrovic, and they were willing to give Marchessault and Riley Smith in return.
Yeah.
Okay, that's ridiculous. No one can do that under normal circumstances, amongst general managers when they talked. The Canadiens can do that. You can't just approach a team and say, well, if you want to protect this guy, you have to give me those two. There's no expansion draft going on right now. And Seattle tried it and nothing worked. So they had to they have to build through the draft. They had to get free agents. And the results are mixed, I would say.
What did you do tonight for
win the Cup within the first 6 years?
What did you do tonight for Halloween? Did you dress up as Userpent or what?
No, I was very busy. I was working.
You were very busy. You were working
on my street in the neck of the woods. There's no kids. It's all old people in the area.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's no age for Halloween. You know that. You can go out, and I especially like those Arrow bars and the Kit Kats.
Yeah. Okay. Did you go?
Arrow's my favorite candy bar, by the way. It's my favorite chocolate bar.
Okay. I don't eat chocolate, but anyway, did you?
You don't eat chocolate?
No. Did you go trick or treat?
No, I did not. You never had a Toblerone chocolate?
One piece, maybe once.
Batchy chocolates. Batchy chocolates are the best chocolates in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Batchy chocolates are fantastic.
Okay.
You have to have a batchy chocolate. I'm going to invite you over to my place in Villa Sal one day. You're going to sit at one end of the table. I'm going to sit at the other.
Well, in the spring,
we're sitting next to me. I'm worried that I'm going to sit there. I'm going to throw a glass of water at you or something.
Okay, but we're going to have to run that 50-meter race that we bet on.
Oh, so then I'm going to send you 2,000 chocolates before we run that race.
Oh, Tony, is guaranteed.
Do you go jogging in the day that you keep on challenging me to a race? Tell me the truth. Do you jog every day?
Well, I haven't done a sprint in probably 35 years. The last time I ran after a bus. But I'm sure I can beat you.
I don't know about that. I'm faster than you think.
We'll see.
My people tell me that they saw you chasing Logan Mailloux down the streets of Laval asking for an autograph. This guy's going to make you eat your words, my friend. I'm telling you. The second this guy's going to show what he can do at the National Hockey League level, you, my friend, are hanging up your microphone, your pen, your pad, all your scouting software. You're hanging everything up. You're calling it a day. You're going to retire and you're going to go off into the sunset.
Exactly.
This guy's going to make you look so bad.
Well, I've said things even worse than I say about Mailloux.
So you think that year every team, besides the Canadiens, didn't have this guy as a first-round pick? And you don't think he went 31st because he said to teams, "Don't draft me"?
Tony, look at
somebody that was in that Canadiens war room that day
from
told
the
me
2020-21 season. Look at the footage.
Again, we're going to the
Okay, we're talking about the draft, Tony. We're not talking about last year, the Memorial.
But I could go back to 2020 in the WWE, who showed you guys that you would laugh at, and 3 years later they're world champions.
No, you're saying why did the teams didn't draft him? Oh, don't draft me.
In 2020, Jake Paul was in boxing, and now he's had 7 fights, and he's won 5 of them, and he's made $100 million. But you, I don't understand some of the things that you say.
Tony,
In
you're
2020,
telling me,
you and I weren't talking, and 3 years later, you're on the Sick Podcast. And we got hundreds of thousands of people watching us right now. Right now, everyone is texting their friends, their family members, their mother, their sister, their brother, and they're saying you have to watch Serpent on with Marinaro.
yeah.
Where were you in 2020? Where were you?
Well, in 2021, I did the show on BPM Sports for the night of the draft.
Oh, you did the show on BPM Sports.
I did the show on the night of the draft, 2021.
Yeah. Okay.
And I remember they were freaking out because
they were freaking out. Yeah.
Yeah, because they drafted Mailloux, and I said, no, it's not about the incident. This is case closed. We're talking hockey here. And I said, okay, third pairing guy.
So you don't believe in late bloomers then? With your sense, with your logic.
Yeah, I do believe in it.
Where were players 3 years ago? You don't believe in late bloomers then?
I do believe in it. But I saw Mailloux in Laval. So far, he's not late bloomer. He's on the path to the third pairing.
When are we going to talk next?
Whenever you want and whenever I'm available.
Wow. You going to be busy over the next month or what? When are we going to go watch a game together, you and I?
Where do we watch the game?
I said, when are we going to go watch a game together? Obviously at the Bell Center? What do you mean where we're going to go watch the game?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it would have been to some sports bar or something, or in your basement.
We got to go watch a game at the arena, me and you.
Yeah.
We're going to watch it together.
Yeah. I told you last year. I was sitting behind you about 15, 20 years ago against the Sharks.
Yeah, 15, 20. When Mailloux gets called up and he's going to play with the Habs, we're going to go.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
which means that there's a chance we might never go. No.
This guy's going to make you look so
bad.
I'm
kidding. Look, I'm kidding. I think he's going to be called up this year. There's going to be injuries and he's going to be called up, but he better be better than what I've seen so far in Laval to be called up.
You don't like what you're seeing in Laval?
He's no better, no worse than tons of other 20-year-old defensemen that I see in that league.
Okay, we'll go watch that game when he gets called up. All right.
Doesn't stand out, Tony.
Ciao, Serpent.
Salut, Tony.
Bye, my man. All right, okay. So now I have a decision to make. And I'm going to bring you, my sick army, my sick community, I'm going to bring you into it, okay? The Canadiens don't play until Thursday night again. And so obviously it's Tuesday night. And tomorrow there's going to be another podcast. And it's going to be with Craig Button. Now, earlier today, I talked to Mike Johnson. And so I thought me and Serpent were going to go about 30 minutes. 30 minutes with him, 30 minutes with Mike Johnson. But now we went over an hour. So I could end the show here and bring the Mike Johnson recording in tomorrow, or I can play the Mike Johnson recording now. So I'm going to take a look. And the way I look at it, because I told you I was going to give you Mike Johnson tonight, I think I should play Mike Johnson tonight. That's what I think. But I'm looking at it here. And I'm not doing a pod on Thursday when they play because it's another 10 o'clock start. So it's either Mike Johnson tonight or Mike Johnson tomorrow night. So Bill says play it. Go with Mike Johnson now. Play it now. Emoji 2, overtime. Now. Play it now. Create a poll. Now. Play Johnson now. Yes, bring on Mikey. Now, let's go, Tony. Hit likes. Now, let's do it tonight. All right, okay. I think I got the point. Not only am I going to play Mike Johnson now, but after the Mike Johnson chat, I'm going to come back. I'm in one of those moods tonight, and I might even take some calls because Snake has rattled me. The Snake has rattled me, and I'm going to take some time to cool off, but I have a feeling that I might still be rattled in about 30 minutes' time, and I might even come back and take a call or two, or I might not. Hey, by the way, I should have told this to Snake, but I will be at the IGA Extra this Saturday at 2 p.m. at 379 Boulevard Arthur-Sauvé in Saint-Eustache. Of course, we celebrated the start of the hockey season, In the last month or so, we visited 2 IGA extras already, one in DDO and one in Laval. And this Saturday is going to be in Saint Eustache. La Bittt at Tibi, the Sick Podcast, and IG Extra are proud to bring you the chance to meet me. I'd be more than happy to meet you. And we're going to do a little bit of beer testing. We're going to sip on La Bittt at Tibi. Without further ado, earlier today, I had a chance to talk to TSN's Mike Johnson. We go to it right now. Changed since the last time we spoke. The last time we spoke, the Montreal Canadiens didn't have a good power play. Taking a look at it today, 14th in the NHL at 20%. That, my friend, is a very respectable number. What can you tell me?
Listen, getting to middle ground, what a difference that makes. And it's amazing. So Montreal has played really well. We've highlighted their game 5-on-5. We'll get to their goaltenders that are playing really well. They don't need that much to get them over the hump, to get them points, to get them wins. And to have the power play just be, we're not talking 35%. We're talking 20, which is around league average. That does so much for the team. It does so much for the confidence of the players on it. And also, Tone, for offensive guys, when you get points and assists, goals on the power play, it helps fuel your play 5-on-5. Maybe it shouldn't, but the reality is it does. It's like oxygen for your legs when you get points in the power play. And all these things come together, and it makes the team so much more effective, so much more dangerous when they have a power play that scores occasionally. Certainly getting in the offensive zone, trying to find those seam passes, getting Nick Suzuki with the puck as often as I can. Because really, it feels as though it works best when Nick has the puck. When he gets in that half wall, he kind of is the table setter. And even though he has an excellent shot, he certainly could facilitate and make good plays in traffic. He's the best at it. So getting him the puck as much as possible once they do get set up is a big part of their success. But the whole feeling just gets different when you can pick away, one every 2 games, 2 every 3 games, whatever it might be, and get yourself around league average in an area where Montreal probably thinks we weren't planning on being league average in this department. It's like it's a net game of what they thought they would be if they can be there.
It seems like they have 2 to 3 different plans, Mike, for the entry into the offensive zone. It doesn't seem like they're at all interested in dumping the puck in and going after it. So one play on the first unit is the drop back pass to Nick Suzuki, and he enters the offensive zone, of course, with his good stick handling ability, and he sets up. The second unit is the drop pass to Alex Newhook, who's got a different approach. He's just gathering speed through the neutral zone, and he's just taking off, he's taking off from his own zone when he picks up that drop pass just past his blue line, and he's taking off and he's trying to carry it into the offensive zone with speed. Now, if all else fails and the other team anticipates the drop back pass, we saw it. Mike Matheson
was beautiful.
Waits, and then he decided to go. But for the most part, those are the entry plans. But you're right. Suzuki's out there usually for about a good 75 seconds. A lot of the power play is based around him. Yeah.
Well, listen, he's your most talented player with the puck. Not the best shooter, not the best scorer, but the best playmaker, best facilitator. And it's funny you mentioned the 2 different looks, because that's how you have to do. If you're going to try to get the zone entry, even on a drop back pass, there's going to be 3 guys likely stacked across the blue line waiting for you. So you have to get in there one way. Nick gets in there with delay and deception and stick handling and angles. And Newhook tries to get in there saying, I'm going to skate so fast, you're going to back up. I'm going to push you back with my speed. They're offering a different look to try to get that zone entry, because in many ways, penalty kills are designed to be most effective before you get in the offensive zone. Like once you get there and you get the puck, you have the 5 best players on the ice for your team, no matter what team it is, unless it's San Jose. But any other team, they're going to have 5 players that can make plays under pressure when you have an extra guy. So in many ways, their PK works well when they don't let you even get there. And as Montreal's done a better job getting there, then you see some of the skill plays. But I do think Nick, even though he plays a strong side, he's able to be a shot threat. We've seen him go kind of top glove on when he attacks downhill at the top of the circle. But he's very good at kind of gathering speed and then sliding it through to Cole or getting it down to the goal line for bump plays. Like he does different things, which is also very important because once you have a little success, you can't keep going back to that.
Yeah.
Penalty kills are smart. They get scouted too. And if they have one specific play, one specific breakout, you have to be a little bit fluid to be dangerous consistently. But it's man, is that a nice threat? And for Matheson's goal tone, we're not going to expect that out of him again this year. That was one of the best we've seen all year long. And you see it sometimes like, okay, well, you're not going to let me drop it to them. So I guess I'll just take it. Now, you don't usually take it all the way for a goal, but it does make sense occasionally to mix it up.
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable in saying that it's the nicest Montreal Canadiens goal that we're going to see all season because it would take something else to beat it. Vinny Danfou said something a couple of days ago on RDS's Antichambre, and I agree with him 100%. I felt this way for a while now. Nick Suzuki has to be less generous. I mean, it's honorable that he's as generous a hockey player as he is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're Cole Caulfield, you love Nick Suzuki the way he is. He's looking to get you that puck, and when others can't get you that puck, he'll be able to get it. He's able to thread the needle on a pass where most players in the National Hockey League probably won't be able to do what he does. But Vinny Danfou said he had a good shot when he played. He had an ability to score goals when he played, and he wanted to get to 40 goals. And he thought, if I hit 3 shots per game at the end of the year, I have a good chance of hitting 40. And he says Suzuki's got to give himself a number per game. And if it's 3, it's 3. If it's 4, it's 4. But he's got to give himself a number per game of shots. And at the same time, Mike, it'll make him a less predictable hockey player, right? So he's got a good shot. He's got an ability to score goals. It'll make him less predictable. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's funny that Vinny talks like that. Now, obviously, Vinny, far better player than I was. But I had the same thing. For me, it was if I could get 3, that would be considered like an active offensive game, 3 shots. If I could average 2.5, that'd be 200 shots in an 80-game schedule. I only had to shoot 10%, which I probably would be able to do, to score 20, back when 20 was a little harder to score. Like, that was kind of my numbers. Absolutely. I went into every game thinking, like, 3 is good. And sometimes I would find myself taking a low percentage shot just to feel like I'm having progress getting on the board. I fought my entire life. My coaches, like my entire life, Tony, my coaches, from the time I was 8 until the time I was 34, my coaches told me to shoot the puck more. And you'd think, well, why wouldn't you? I mean, you want to score. Of course, everyone wants to score. You want to score more, you want to assist. But talk about the guy who just retired, and Joe Thornton. He could shoot the puck incredibly well, never did. Ryan Getzlaff could shoot it incredibly well, never did. Like, sometimes you're just wired to be a facilitator, and Nick is wired that way, which helps him be very unselfish. But yeah, I mean, I think it's something that you just have to work at, be reminded. And I think setting short-term goals in appreciation of how that adds up into the big-term picture. Like Vinny scoring, 40 on 240 shots, that's numbers that he can work with. If Nick is saying, I want to get to 35 goals. Okay, I can score, if I can get to 250 shots, that's 1 out of every 8 I need to score on, 12.5 shooting percentage. I'm a career 13 guy. That's good. Like, you work those numbers, and it can help you stay on track and keep your focus on something that you need to focus on, because it's not instinctive for Nick to shoot the puck, to look to score. Like Cole, like anytime he gets remotely in a shooting position, you know what he's going to do. And why wouldn't you when he shoots it as well as he does? But if you're not wired that way, I was not, so I completely get it. I think having short-term goals is a good idea. It can keep you on target for what you're trying to accomplish.
It's funny, this whole time we're talking about Suzuki and the fact that he has to be less selfish, but he can find Cole Caulfield with passes that other players cannot. And we're talking about the two. And for whatever reason, you know what's going on in my mind right now? Backstrom and Ovechkin. And, not to say that Cole's going to go on and score 800 goals. With all due respect to Cole, I don't think he will. But I think what's happening will be kind of like a poor man's version of what we saw out of Washington, right? They have that same dynamic.
You're right, but I think it was almost even more exacerbated, where Ovi was so solely the shooter, and Nick Backstrom was solely the passer. I think Cole Caulfield is better at passing the puck around than maybe he gets credit for, because he could shoot it so well. And I think Nick, relative to the rest of his skill set, is a more proficient scorer than just passer, where Backstrom was one of the best passers we've seen in the last 25 years. So
Yeah.
I think you could meet slightly closer to the middle than at the end of the extremes where Ovechkin and Backstrom. But it's not like you can't have great success with a shooter and a passer. I'm going to go Yari Curry and Wayne Gretzky. This is what you get. You get a shooter and a passer.
Yeah.
But I think they can beat a little close in the middle because Nick can score. He should be in the 30s every year, if not more, because he's got great hands and a really good shot. He just, he's got to choose to use it.
What a great last week for the Montreal Canadiens, right? They go into Buffalo on Monday. They win. On Tuesday, they come back versus Jersey. But the Canadiens at that point, 2 games and 2 nights, travel included, pretty tired hockey club. They lose. A couple nights later, they play Columbus. They win. Couple nights after that, they play Winnipeg. They win. And then last night, they go to Vegas, and they lose in a shootout to arguably the best team in hockey. And after the game, Marty St. Louis says, ever since I've been here and I've been coaching this team, this is the best game we ever played.
He's not wrong. So, I tuned in late last night, 10 o'clock start, whatever it is, and I'm expecting it to be, Vegas being the better team. Clearly the better team. But maybe the score stays.
A comfortable win for the Golden Knights, we all expected.
4-1 empty netter, 4-2, carry the play, have the chances. Maybe Montembeault or Allen plays really well because they have. We'll get to that. But that's not how that game went. Yeah, they lost that game in a shootout. But that game, in the rarest of games for Vegas, Montreal generated chances, generated shots, offensive zone opportunities, special team. They did a lot offensively. And they were better than Vegas. Now, players the next morning, we don't take any in the journey or in the process. We're like, oh, we lost. But that was, Marty's right. That was an excellent game. That, they could bottle that and play that some version of 80 times. They would be in the playoffs 100%. That's how good the game was against the best team in the league, along with Boston, maybe in Vegas. Vegas just doesn't give you anything. And yet Montreal went out and earned it. A bit of a gift for Aiden Hill on the one, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from all the other stuff that they earned against a team that defends as well as anyone. I was surprised. I'm still wrapping my head, Tony. This is all part and parcel of all our conversations. I'm wrapping my head around. I can't say Montreal is for real. I can't do it yet. I can't be but we're coming up on 10 games. We're getting into the season. And not only statistically in the standings, they're doing okay, but the way they're playing to get there, that's the surprising part. That's the impressive part. And that's the part that has more staying power than hot Montembeault, hot Allen.
So I totally understand you. And I hate to be the glass half empty guy instead of the glass half full guy. But there's 2 ways that I look at it. Number one, 9 games. And the Canadiens, the way they're built, you have some smaller, skilled guys.
Sure.
Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Alex Newhook, Brendan Gallagher, just to name a few. They usually have teams that basically start very strong out of the gate. And as the season winds down, they tend to drop a little bit at a time. That's number one.
Sure.
Number two, they've had some pretty big injuries. Doc is out. We know he's going to be out for the rest of the season. Savard's going to be out for at least another 6 weeks. And so, that's a second line centerman to replace and a number 2 defenseman on this team to replace, or a third line centerman and, a number 3 defenseman if you want, because obviously it's debatable what I just said. You can replace guys like that and you can make up for injuries short term. But when you have a team that's not overly deep to start the season, you have a hard time making up for injuries long term. And so because of those 2 things, that the injuries short term, you can make up for it. And because traditionally they usually get, start strong out of the gates, I'm going to be a little bit glass half empty and tell you that I don't think they can keep this up. I hope they can. I don't think they will.
But what if I said, being the eternal optimist that I am, Tony, what if I said they have a player who can play like a second line centerman who's been injured the last 3 years, but early in his career was pretty damn good? His name's Sean Monahan, who's not 37. I think he's 28.
He's 29. He's 29.
So it feels like he's been around for a long time, but he's
Yeah.
still, and he hasn't, quite frankly, his body, yes, his hips and everything else have taken a beating, but he hasn't played that much hockey the last 3 years, right? Like he's missed time.
Yeah, the last 3 years he has. But prior to that, though, he played a lot of hockey. Like,
very consistent. Yeah.
Graham McCagg tweeted out something earlier today, and he was like, everyone's talking about Monahan being injury prone, but I mean, early on in Monahan's career, 75, 81, 81, 82, 74, 78, 70. Those are relatively healthy seasons. And then after there was a season of 50 and one of 65 and one of 25. So for the most part, the one of 50 and the one of 25, there's a couple of big injuries there. But other than that, he's a guy
good.
He's
been good.
I think he's been their most consistent forward on the team.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, even in his career, like,
yeah,
there's a mental thing, Tony, that has to happen when you need to become comfortable in being expected from the coaching staff, your teammates, and maybe mostly yourself to produce. Like, there's a pressure, but there's also a performance that you can carry when you are demanding of yourself that you score or produce points. And I think Sean is still, even though he's a few years removed from getting a ton of points, mentally he still sees himself like, I'm an offensive play driving, goal scoring centerman. It's what I do. It's what I've always done since I was 18. And yeah, it hasn't happened lately, but I still think he believes he can do it. And maybe not at 38 goal level, but if he can get 25 goals and 25 assists, I mean, like on the Habs, that's second line production. That's a second line center production. So I think having him around to replace Doc, and there's no question Doc they will miss. It's a luxury that they didn't have last year. He didn't play that many games for them, and so I think that he's been so good.
Yeah,
now, he's also a guy that you worry about his body and how it stays fresh and does it break down and all that stuff. But for now, he's looked so good, and he's never, even when he was 18 and as healthy as could be, he was never a great skater. Like, not a great skater. He was always just good enough. And so the fact that he's, might not be the fastest, well, he's never been the fastest. He's played his whole career figuring out not being the fastest.
The makeup of his game is very similar to Suzuki's.
Yeah.
Not the fastest skaters, but an extremely high hockey IQ.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They kind of resemble each other. Monahan's obviously got more experience, and I think at this stage of his career, he's a better face-off guy than Suzuki. I mean, he was 83% last night versus Vegas. 83%.
That's lovely. Listen, I play with no panic Yannick Perreault, who was like the best of the best.
Yeah.
And I know and I understand the numbers that winning face-off doesn't dictate to a successful game or scoring chances. But as a player, yeah, it felt good to know that 85% of the time, I didn't have to go chase it. I could go do something with it. And it just, when you have that, and then, defensively being able to get out of your own end that much quicker and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It adds up. It's just a nice little breath of pressure relief when you feel you're going to win the faceoff.
We talked about Monahan's age before. He's 29 years old. And usually when a player is 29 and he's set to be an unrestricted free agent, they believe that they're going to be signing most likely the last contract of their careers.
Last big one. Yeah.
Yeah. And Monahan was here last year in the same situation on the final year of his contract, hoping to sign a long-term deal. Probably the Canadiens were going to trade him at the deadline if he was going to be healthy. And then he was going to try and sign a long-term deal with the team he was going to or whatever. And it didn't happen. And the Canadiens said to him in the offseason, Sean, it'd be really hard for you to find a long-term deal with another team because you've been injured over the last 2 or 3 seasons. But we do know this. You had 17 points in 25 games with us. You liked it here. You played well. And we also know that, we like you too as a player. We'd like to keep you here. We'd like to have you. But we can't give you a long-term deal for the same reasons that you couldn't get one from the other teams. So why don't you come back for another year and you'll see what happens. Either it's going to be with us or it's going to be with somebody. But, the goal is going to be play here, be healthy, have success the way you did last year, put up a ton of points, and we'll go from there. So now I have to ask you this. And at the end of the day, only he knows and only his agent knows.
Mm-hmm.
But what are the chances of Sean Monahan being 29 years old, liking here so much, that instead of trying for a 6-year deal, he'd be fine with a 3 to see what happens and then probably sign another 3 afterwards? I guess not very likely, huh?
I mean, depends how well. Like so full disclosure, Sean's agent, my old agent, Pat Morris. Like I've known Pat for 25 years, and Sean's had him his whole career, so I do know them a little bit.
Good. Place that call for me when you have a chance.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Sean hasn't won a Stanley Cup, so there's that. And does he see a path to being competitive fast enough for Montreal to make him want to? We know he loves it, loves living there, loves playing there. We know he has no problem with the Canadian market, which I think, today's group of players, that is something that you have to think about, has no problem living in Montreal, that stuff. So that's all to the good. I think, Pat, if I know Pat Morris well, I'm not speaking as though I spoke to him, but if Pat Morris says I have 6 years and $4.5 million a year on the table, or you can do 3 years at 4 in Montreal, Pat's like, well, 27 is better than 12. Like, I think that's an obvious conversation.
Of course.
Even if you think you're going to get another 10 after the first 3 and you end up at 27 to 22. It's more a question about, not is Sean good enough? Not does he like Montreal well enough? Is Montreal far enough along? And can you see a path to being, no one can pick a team for a Stanley Cup. He can go play for whoever. Take your pick. Edmonton, Colorado, Vegas. Doesn't guarantee him a cup in the next 5 years. Not at all. We've seen that. But can it guarantee you a competitive team that has a chance? Yeah. And that's what he'll need to see. Even if they're not going to be there this year. But if he can see the path, then it's not out of the question.
The reason why I bring it up is because 3-year deal I sign. But chances are a 3-year deal he doesn't sign. And to answer your question,
how good his year's going, right?
And to answer your question, 3-year deal, I don't see them going for the cup, but I can see them going for the cup in 5 years.
Yeah, and that's. But then you're like, well, hang on. If I'm going to sign 3, but I see it in 5, will I even be here in 5? That's the negotiation, though, Tony.
Yeah.
Like that is what it comes down to. But the fact remains, Montreal's in a great spot because they have a player who really likes there and plays well there. So they have that going for them. And this year they have the flexibility that they had last year. Like presumably if it's not going well as a team or he doesn't want to come back, you're going to trade him and you're going to get something really good back for him like you would have last year before he injured himself. So either way, they're going to return an asset or they're going to have a really good player coming back on a contract that they can agree to.
What do you think of the way Marty St. Louis played his cards with his goalies?
I like it. I mean, everything from what Jake Allen played opening night, even though Montembeault was the better goalie last year.
Yeah.
And I have no problem saying, hey, Sam, you still have to, like, you had a great year. Still got to earn it every day. And we still, let's not forget how good the other guy is. And there's no real defined, I mean, I asked you, Tony, who's the number one? I don't know. I mean, I think the number one's whoever's playing that night. Like, it is a true 1A, 1B. I think it was 2 years ago, not last season, but 2 years ago in Boston, Swayman and Ullmark played 41 games each. I mean, never happens, but like if they're about the same and they're different spots in their careers, so it's you're more concerned in growing Montembeault, but yet I think Sam's an unrestricted free agent this summer, is he not?
Yeah, but I think that's what they're trying to do here. And I asked you the question because Marty St. Louis was questioned by a lot of people here during camp at the beginning of the season. There was a certain sector of the media that wasn't very, very happy with him because they said, well, Samuel Montembeault was better than Jake Allen last year. Montembeault should have had game number 1 to start the season. Now, not everyone said that, but a lot of people said that, and I can understand it. At the end of the day, was Montembeault that much better than Jake Allen last year? I think he had one more win. And I think his save percentage was, just a couple
10 points higher.
A couple of decimal points off of Jake Allen. Like, it was, the stats were very, very similar, but there's no doubt Montembeault was better. But you're right. That's exactly what Marty St. Louis did. He was like, even last year when Montembeault was the better goalie, St. Louis would say that Jake Allen was his number 1. And this year, without saying it, he gave Jake Allen the first game of the season, which is a sign that it goes to your number 1, right? And, Jake's getting a little bit more than Montembeault. But now all of a sudden, you see Montembeault. It looks like it's lighting a fire on their Montembeault.
Yeah.
And you have this healthy competition going on right now between the both of them that reminds me of Ullmark and Swayman. The exact same thing.
You said the right word there. Healthy. because competition can get unhealthy. And we know this. We've seen it in a variety of sports, hockey included, where you can kind of root against your teammate because you want your own benefit. It happens all the time. And, I do like the idea that they're pushing each other, but they're collaborating, they're supporting each other, they're communicating together. They're not secretly sitting on the bench. I hope Sam lets this one in so that, I'm guaranteed 2 of the next 3 starts. I think they're sort of pushing each other. And I think what Marty's doing is that Marty's a new age guy, no doubt. We listened to him talk. We saw the way he played. We get it. But he's got some old school in him. And I think he's deferring to the veteran when he gives Jake Allen the number 1 the first game. I think while Montembeault was better last year, Jake Allen's had a really good NHL career. And he's taken it on the chin for like 2 years for Montreal. Never said a word, never complained, has bad stats, doesn't get wins, and just keeps going out there and trying to do his best for the team. I think Marty wants to acknowledge that as well. So there's more that goes into it than saying, I think he's better than the other guy or he's older than the other guy. Like, there's a lot to it. And also you need to know, is Sam Montembeault a player who, when challenged, pouts and says he's not treating me fairly? Or is he a player that says, I'll show him. You don't want to give me the first game? Guarantee you give me the last one. And guys are wired different. And you need to know. Yeah. And it looks like Sam's got that self-belief to say, push me, I'll push back and I'll play well and I'll show you. And he had, they both played well, so you can't really argue what he's doing. They're playing ridiculously well.
Mike, we'll end with this. The hockey world is in mourning. They have been since the weekend. In what was just a terrible, terrible accident. The scenes are so incredibly disturbing that a lot of people haven't had the courage to watch.
It's awful. Awful.
And it is awful. And so now it takes something terrible to happen, unfortunately, in the world for people to start asking questions about, if everything was done to avoid such a terrible accident. So now we're talking about equipment and protective gear. Unfortunately, the talk has also, some have initiated talks in regards to that they believe that it was not an accident and that the player whose skate struck Adam Johnson's neck actually swung his leg recklessly. What can you tell me? What are your thoughts about the whole situation, and what can we do to try and prevent another tragedy like this one?
Yeah, I mean, that's your first thoughts is like, it's just so sad for his family, his friends, his teammates, even the people in the building, like to try to witness that kind of trauma. It was really, really tough. I tried to not see it, and I saw it, and I don't want to ever see it again. So, we've seen that, Zednik, Malarchuk, and you think, as gruesome and scary as that is, there's always medical people around that it wouldn't get to the point where someone would pass away and just happen to go down that road. So I guess my thoughts are this. Of course, no one would ever suggest anybody meant to kick somebody in the head with their skate. Could he have stuck his leg back down on the ice or tried not to trip him as he was mistiming his hip? Whatever. Like that's hockey. It happens all the time. Guys get their body positions out all the time, whether it's an elbow, a knee, a skate, whatever. I think there was no malicious intent at all. Like at most, we could have a conversation. Was he trying to trip him? That's it. And to be quite frank, that player needs support too. He's going to need professional support to deal with what he's going through and the fallout from that collision. So no, I don't buy this reckless leg kick, skate up in the air. Like it happened. He got out of control. Things happen fast, and it's awful. As far as neck guards go, I think the first most obvious one, and I'm stunned that this is not the case, Tony, that every youth hockey organization in the world does not mandate neck guards. I don't understand that. I don't. It's craziness. So you do that, and then when men and women get to their highest levels, they're used to playing with them, and will wear them because that's normal. I will say this from a player who had no illusions about being a tough guy or proving anything in the NHL. The first game I ever played without a mask was in the NHL. I wore a full cage my whole career in college. And I didn't even put a visor on. Stupid, completely. No reason for it. And yet, because that's what was sort of the norm, and I was not used to looking through the visor, I didn't want to go through that transition. I wore no face mask. I didn't wear a mouth guard. I didn't wear wrist guards. I did not wear Kevlar socks. I wore nothing. I wore pajamas and gear. And I think that if you want to get net guards into the NHL, you grandfather them in. Every new player coming in has to wear one. And in 10 years, everyone will have one on, and some guys will put one on anyways. If I was running a team, I would have the very best equipment companies offering all their Kevlar stuff for the Evander Kane wrist and the Dion thigh and the Erik Karlsson Achilles. Like I would have all my guys encouraged to wear those things and a net guard. And it's terrible that we have to have a tragedy of this magnitude to have the conversation. But, you know, why would guys not wear it? One, it's just something else on their body that they have to get used to while playing, and guys don't like changing things. Okay, that's sort of meritorious, but not really. The other thing is it doesn't look cool, which is ridiculous. But that's also part of what guys would do. But if you grandfather it in, then you take the decision out of the young players coming in, and it'll become more normal, like they did with a helmet, like they did with visors, and the place will be safer for it. It's awful we had to use this to have maybe the catalyst for this conversation, but it's probably a good conversation to have, because it does happen 1 or 2 times a year where someone gets cut badly, and maybe that could have been mitigated by a different piece of equipment.
And the skates are sharper than they ever have been, right? So the game's faster. The skates
it's faster,
are
Tone. I don't know if it's sharper, but to me it's faster. And faster means while guys are better skaters, collisions and decisions are more out of control. Because like when you're just moving faster, it's like physics. And when you start spinning and lose balance, like things are moving around quicker where you can't get a hand up, and so you're going to see more high-speed collisions where things are moving around, including skates, which makes it more dangerous.
Thank you, Mike Johnson. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Merci beaucoup. And we're back. And thank you to Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America. They are driven to be different. Also want to thank Playground. Over 600 machines, poker tournaments, and Playground casino games, daily promotions, and unmatched customer service. Why go anywhere else? Located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. Playground. And these guys here, Bittt Tibi, brewed in Quebec and a winner of a dozen international awards. Bittt Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. Bittt Tibi, embrace your true nature. Once again, there was an event at IG Extra with Bittt Tibi, myself, Agnello, and Sammy Cavallaro. This was about, I would say, 4 or 5 weeks ago. We had our first one in DDO at the IGA Extra. And then a couple of weeks ago, we were at the IGA Extra in Laval. And on this Saturday, November 4th, starting at 2 p.m., myself, Agnello, and Sammy will be at the IGA Extra at 379 Boulevard Arthur Sauvé in Saint-Eustache. We're going to be there for a couple of hours. We'll have some T-shirts to give away of Bittt Tibi, some caps of Bittt Tibi to give away. Join us for a meet and greet, and you can take in some beer testing of Bittt Tibi, and I'm quite certain that once you do, you're going to end up leaving with a case of 12 or maybe even a couple of cases. I want to thank you, my sick army, you, my sick community, for watching, all of you. And of course, you heard the emotion in Mike Johnson's voice and in myself. It was very, very difficult to talk about the tragic passing of Adam Johnson. If we can bring up his picture, only 29 years of age, losing his life, playing the sport that he loves. So young, so tragic. But maybe we can take solace in the fact that he died doing what he loves to do. Still terribly, terribly sad. And the hockey world has to wake up. As Mike Johnson said, you got to be able to protect yourself going forward, because at the end of the day, there's some steps that are being taken. It looks like even the NHLPA is discussing it, and they want to bring in some protective equipment or several pieces of protective equipment, because losing one life due to a hockey accident is one life too many. Thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends. If we can bring up the picture one more time, we'll go out with him. Thank you for watching this podcast tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night. Adam Johnson, rest in peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Labita TB. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.